The future of Final Fantasy XIV is both bright yet murky, and you guys have theories, and I want to react to those theories, so that's exactly what we're going to do today. Hello, everybody. It's your boy Jmulls, and buckle up, because today's gonna be a bumpy ride. First up, we have at Starblood27, who says, we are 100% going to Hingashi. We've only been to Kagane and a mountain. That's not enough. There's a major city in it, as well as being close enough to Blind Frost for that to be the final two areas of an expansion. I'm not sold on it being 8.0, but it is islands, so that it could be the water and wind, referring to the poem that Yoshi P put out for the whole New Year's, as a hint as to where we're gonna go next. Or just a hint for the future. I would love to go to Hingashi at some point, and the main theory I've talked about for this next big narrative arc is that I think it's gonna be broken up based on the seasons. That Dawn Trail, because they kept yapping about it being the summer vacation, was supposed to be summer. I imagine the next big arc will be autumn, then winter, then spring. I don't know if they're gonna do Hingashi for spring or for autumn. I don't think they do it for winter. I mean, it's definitely possible that they do it for winter, don't get me wrong, especially if they do, like, as this theory predicted, couple going to Hingashi with Blind Frost. Like, that's entirely possible. I just feel like for a location like Hingashi, you go with either autumn or you go with spring, just for the aesthetic behind it. But I also kind of think we're going to Miracidia for the final bit of this arc, because Yoshi P previously said that we're not going to Miracidia anytime soon. So that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, everything's up in the air because we could just also just go to a shard, kind of like we did in Shadowbringers. I do think, though, Hingashi is just a location ripe for exploration and just expansion overall. It is very much detailed on a world map of Final Fantasy XIV. We can go back to this old reliable Reddit post that has the world map from years and years ago. And when you look at the world map, you can see just how developed the map is for Hingashi. And heck, this was an old world map because it doesn't even include the new world, but even all the way back then, there is so much detail here. This does kind of feel like one of those situations where you just keep predicting it until it actually turns out to be true. But in a lot of ways, to me, Hingashi feels like the break glass in case of emergency. It's a known about location. We've dipped our toe in there narratively before with Stormblood. When it comes to Kagane, it's a beloved aesthetic. It just feels more inevitable than anything. Next up, we have at Fool on Devils, who says, okay, hear me out for the idea of a next Shadowbringers. Take a leaf from Heavensward. The Scions should be scattered across the shards. This could be a very interesting idea. I think it could do a couple of things that could be beneficial for the main story. Number one, minimize the role of having all the Scions as the primary party members in a particular expansion. Because if you send them to a bunch of different shards and we only deal with like one or two at a time, then you have to fill the rest of the cast of characters with essentially new characters. Unless they pull on existing characters, but I imagine if we're going to different shards, it'd be kind of like Shadowbringers, and they'd be bringing to the table a bunch of new characters, or at least I would hope so. It would also give us additional motivation to get to all the different shards on a personal level, not just we have to save the world. But it also does something that I kind of suspect that they want to keep incorporated into the story, and that is the Scions overall to some degree. I don't think they want to abandon the Scions, essentially the faces of Final Fantasy XIV to some degree, entirely. I don't really see them doing that, and I think by doing something like this, by saying, okay, we have 1, 2, maybe 3 Scions go to a particular shard at a time, we deal with that shard, we bring them back into the fold, then we're like, okay, let's get to the next one and recruit or save or just flat out find the other Scions that are on this different shard. It could be a very interesting way to go about doing this, and I wouldn't be particularly surprised. I think the way they handled the Scions in Shadowbringers, probably one of my favorite uses of the Scions that I've seen, because Shadowbringers, kind of like what this comment implied, was basically a toned down version of this idea, where just instead of going across all the different shards, it was just across the first, right? Like, you have your Stola over here, Urianger up over here, Thancred doing a thing like over here. My main thing would be, I would hope that if they go this direction, they don't just do all the shards all at once. I wouldn't want an expansion with like, okay, zone 1 is we go to this shard, then zone 2 we go to this other shard, etc, etc, etc. I wouldn't want that to be how they go on this idea. I would want it to be, okay, for this expansion we're going to this shard, or we're we're dealing with this shard, and we'll deal with, like, say, Alphino and, like, Y'shtola there. And those are the only Scions we have during that entire shard escapade, and we have to deal with a whole bunch of new characters alongside it. I could see them going in that direction, and that would be the direction where if they go in this path, that's how I hope they would execute on this idea. Next up on the docket, we have at Oddity of Fates, who says, I was perusing the Square Enix store, and under the Final Fantasy XIV franchise, there's a Chrono Trigger collab shirt releasing in June 2026, which is really odd. I'm gonna go out of left field and say it's going to be a parallel to Chrono Trigger. A bit of time hopping, as weird as that would be. 7.5, 7.55 is a cataclysmic event that either destroys the Ninth, somehow separates us from most of our allies. Instead of just going to save it in a linear fashion, we're going to be going across different eras within the shard. I mean, we have so many visuals of before, during, and after the Storm Surge. We know plenty about Zelania and Sphne's mentor. They were building Sphene up as a character to interact with, and she too is a character displaced from time. There's already a precedent for it, even, to a lesser degree with Elpis. I could see this theory being rather controversial for quite a few people, but you know what? I was never someone that subscribed to the idea where for like 8.0, we would just go to the 9th again and really explore it. I feel like we've done most of what we probably are going to with that entire world in terms of exploring new locations, but this idea though, now this tickles my fancy. I really love the idea of us just going on a time-hopping adventure. There has been a theory I've been toying around with, not saying I came up with it because I'm pretty sure I didn't. My memory is a bit like hazy though. The idea is that for an expansion, we go back in time to the time of Eorzea during the War of the Magi. I would love an expansion that just kind of runs with this idea. I think it could be so dang cool because the War of the Magi era for Final Fantasy XIV for me just feels like it's ripe for exploration. I would love to see those giant empires and civilizations at their heyday. Like, I would love to see that. And you know what? I have the same exact feeling now when it comes to the 9th. If we could go back in time to the heydays of like Alexandria and we witness the fall, basically take that final dungeon from 7.0 and we just go back to that time period, like that could be so dang cool for an overall expansion, especially if they lean into the idea of it being like a time hopping adventure. I can't comment on how similar it would be to Chrono Trigger because I haven't played Chrono Trigger yet, but they did do a short story on their website where Zelania was the MC, and it was a very fascinating read, and I thought it was very interesting putting her as the MC. It could just mean nothing, and it was just supposed to be a nice little throwback to give us a glimpse as to what it was like back then and what Zelania as a character was like. That could just be what it was, or it could be something kind of signaling things to come. I personally just kind of hope they go balls to the wall and just go crazy with whatever it is they plan to do. I don't want a really tame story for this next big narrative arc. I want something absolutely crazy and bonkers and wild. And I mean, come on, one of my favorite bits of any story they've ever done was when we went back in time to go back to Elpis. Like, that was so dang good. I would love for an entire expansion where it kind of just felt like that again. I don't know if that's going to be what they actually do, but God, would it be cool. I would personally be in favor of something like this. I think it's a really fascinating idea. I don't know how likely it actually is, but it would be very fascinating to see them do something in this vein. Buckle up, people. We got a long boy. We have at Defender X who says, hey, hello. I have been theorizing for some years. Here's one that I found that isn't really confirmed, but it's very obvious for me at least. They are setting up for a new rejoining, and I'm hoping this will be a grand rejoining of 3 shards in one go. Here's why. The Umbral calamities that have happened until now have been rejoined with certain elements that is according to the elemental wheel going clockwise from wind to water. After the 6th calamity, the 7th calamity of the 7th shard was rejoined with pure darkness ether, pure astral. This is important. It seems to me that all the elements were called forth, empowering the source, and then empowered with darkness or perhaps sealed. Now we have 6 shards left. Yes, 6, which is enough for all 6 elements to be called forth once more. And this also fits very well if the shards were rejoined with not only elements, but both astral and umbral aspected elements. There needs to be balance between elements in astral and umbral. According to the text for the elemental wheel, after going through the elemental wheel, it also describes something called the 3 conquests and 3 submissions. Kinky. There are triads of elements that cancels each other out. I think that if the source is unbalanced with the correct elements at different locations, say you have an overabundance of lightning ether, in Heritage Found, shown as a vein of lightning ether spewing out lightning ether, that particular part of the source is overabundant of lightning. Now we only need 2 other places in the source to be overabundant with earth ether and water ether, and voila, you have a major rejoining with 3 shards. Welcome to the bastion of all human knowledge, a wiki. I'm going to just assume this is correct, by the way, as all YouTubers do when they find a random post online. So the shards that remain are the 1st, the 4th, the 8th, the 9th is still kicking, the 11th, and also the 13th. That is 6, so long as I can count correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, nailed it. It's probably a Q in there somewhere, who knows. And then we have this other post, this time from Reddit, which is even more verifiably true, for the elemental chart. And then what the theory stated turns out to be true. The first umbral calamity was wind. Look at the chart, wind is here. Then the second one was lightning up over here. Lightning's next in the chart. Then the next should be fire for the third, and it is. Then the 4th is earth, just like here. Planet Dirt. Name the movie. Then the 5th is ice, which is next. So the 6th should be water. And voila, it is. Now, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about in the previous theory, which is like, I do hope they go kind of wacky with this next big arc, right? And sure, in Shadowbringers, we were working to prevent the actual 8th umbral calamity, right? I could see them doing a story arc where it involves like multiple calamities happening all at once with multiple rejoinings. You could argue that's just them trying to continually up the stakes, especially considering the Heidelin Zodiac arc. Absolutely. But I think it could be rather interesting depending upon how they actually execute on this idea. I don't know how likely this actually is, because I feel as if the narrative they're going to go for this like next arc will be that the shards themselves are dying off and like withering away, if we even want to use that word. But like maybe the end result of whatever's happening to these shards could just be that they end up getting rejoined to some degree, or that we have to find a way to rejoin them, kind of like with the way Heritage Found was in Dawn Trail. We have to do something similar for the other shards with the theorists, and like maybe that's a way we can like find a way to like counteract it. Maybe that doesn't seem to have stopped whatever's going to happen to the 9th because of the dialogue in 7.4, or maybe something they could do, right, is we can do something like what happened to Heritage Found when it comes to putting it into a theorist. We could do that for like other locations in these other shards, and we have to do that to save as many people as we can before the shards just kind of like wither away and like disperse the ether out into, well, the emptiness of space or something is just lost forever. Maybe we could do something like that, and then each of the different shards we deal with are dealing with like a different element. So the 9th was lightning, maybe like the next one's earth or water, etc., etc. It is rather interesting to me that, at least in the English localization, Halmarud calls what is to come the Great Withering, which feels very like umbral coded to me. It doesn't feel or sound like something that's going to happen all at once in some big calamitous event like a lot of previous calamities were. It feels like something that's going to just continually rot away with time over and over and over again. A very slow, methodical process. I could just be BSing here. That's entirely possible. But I do wonder if there's some kind of connection that Square Enix is trying to allude to when it comes to the English localization, when it comes to this stuff. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see, but it is interesting to think about. And I do think we might be onto something a little bit here. So here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with your own theories for the future of Final Fantasy XIV and where you think this story is going to go from here. I would love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your theories, because I may react to them in a future video. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And I like playing MMOs on this channel. My 2 main ones are Final Fantasy XIV, but also World of Warcraft. And recently, there are quite a few exciting announcements for the future of World of Warcraft's next expansion, Midnight. Want to find out more? You should check out this video right here for more. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.